consumer protection laws, and we had a target of 25, and we have achieved 75. It speaks holistically to compliance towards the consumer laws. And you know that if SMEs are trained within this aspect, they will be able to know that their goods are compliant. And the next one is on compliance with shareholders compact by entities. It has been achieved as planned, and this indicator, its main purpose is to enhance good governance, accountability, to our taxpayers as well as the oversight bodies. It also assists entities to perform in such a way that they contribute to the competitive economy. Chair, overall, the ultimate impact of our successful intervention will ensure that the economy grows as well as to reduce poverty. The next slide, it's indicators that have not been achieved, 9 of them. The first one is on cases adjudicated in the consumer court, and we're also looking at percentage assessed against plan target. This is an indicator for entities regarding their performance. And over target of 95, we've achieved 81%, only a few indicators that were not achieved. On budget spend by entities as well, the target of 95%, we're sitting at 85%. HOD has already alluded to the indicators, the 6 indicators, the next 6 indicators, the one on jobs for township economic programs, where we didn't achieve the target of 12.5, and we are sitting at 4.6. Now the next indicator, the 5 indicators, is on the BBB indicators, and on budget spent on locally produced goods and services, budget spent on skills development, budget spent on supplier development, spent on enterprise development, as well as on socio-economic development. These indicators were not achieved, and the reason is because of the department is struggling to get the reports from the different departments. This is the executive summary for the performance for the department for the first quarter. Thank you.
HOD.
Thanks, Chairperson. So that's the executive summary. So, Chair, do we deal now with the questions, or should we go to the entities and then later on come to the questions?
Just deal with questions that are relevant to the department. And then the next question, if it's relevant to any entity, you hand over to the entity, they deal with the executive summary, and they ultimately respond to their question.
All right, colleagues, I'm sure you've got the questions there. So the first one deals with finance. Ronald, the issue around incorrect suppliers' invoices were not paid, and what is a dispute, and what were the mitigating factors, and yeah, if you can just deal with that. And then the next one, Bulumko and Masha, you need to deal with 2 and 3. And then 4, Ronald, is also underspending in the mitigation. So colleagues, you do have the questions in front of you and the answers. So if you can just ensure that it flows. Just read out the question and then summarize the answer, please do.
Victoria, can we assist with the mic?
Good morning, Chairperson and the Portfolio Committee members. Good morning to the MEC.
You can stand up. It's
Okay.
only the HOD that can sit down because he knows that you are supposed to be this side.
Thank you, Chairperson. Apologies. Good morning, members of the public and also colleagues from the department. I think the question on finance was that how many incorrect suppliers invoices were not paid, and what is the dispute what is disputed in each, and what mitigation factors were put in place to resolve the impasse, if any. Chairperson, for Q1, there were no incorrect invoices, and as a result, there were no disputed invoices during the quarter as well. But I also want to bring the this to the public as well, to say as the department, when we receive invoices, a correct invoices obviously it needs to have the supplier name, the date, and obviously it needs to correspond to the amount paid. So now if those are actually covered in the invoice, then obviously the department, as and when we receive the invoice, will then proceed and pay within the targeted time, which is basically 15 days. But for the quarter, we didn't have incorrect or disputed invoice. Thank you, Chairperson.
All right, question 2, Bulumko and Huitsioni.
Thanks, Shudi. Honorable members, as far as question 2 is concerned, it states the following: the department committed to recruit 12 to 14 SMMEs in the furniture skills development and incubation program in this financial year. What is the progress to date and the criteria used for the recruitment? What is the nature of the support provided by the program? Progress to date, we are finalizing the implementation plan and the SLA with Fentech. The criteria we are using, we are targeting unemployed youth who aspire to be in the furniture industry, as well as SMMEs that are already in the sector that require support in improving their manufacturing capabilities. The program provides technical skills, business support services such as mentorship and coaching, as well as access to equipped workshops to support manufacturing of furniture. Question 3 is already covered by the HOD in his summary. It's about the Nedbank that pulled out of the partnership we had on the township economy. And the answer here is that this bank was replaced by ABSA, and the negotiations are at the final stages with ABSA, together with the implementation partner. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. The next question is for you, Ronald, on the underspending, question 4.
Thank you. There was a question under the underspending, under administration of 18.6 million. And the question requested the department to provide a detailed breakdown and account of the unspent 18.6 million. And then we also requested to provide further details on how the proposed mitigation will assist in spending. Yes, Chairperson, under Program 1, there was an underspending in Q1 of 18.6 million. And we also provided the details of the accounts on that, as to, what caused the underspending. So mostly, in fact, the underspending was as a result of, the accruals. We had accruals of 18.6 million, and then when we closed, the quarter one. But those accruals, as we speak, about 98% of the accruals has now, they've been paid as we speak. So that 18.6 million was as a result of that. But also just to make sure that now we don't have, a huge amount of accruals going forward. We'll then basically want to make sure that now all the invoices are received, or we also push, the different business, program managers to make sure that, all the services rendered at that particular, time, we must forge for invoices so that we pay invoices before the closure of the system during the quarter. Thanks.
Thank you, Ronald.
Just before you sit down, can you just explain the amount, or am I missing something here?
The amount is 18.6 million.
Now, I'm saying on the breakdown. Just look at the amount of the breakdown. Maybe I'm missing something there, or maybe it's a typo. Let me make an example. You say Vodacom, is that 269 rand? Or is there something that I'm missing? You can even start with the first one, hotel and tourism.
The chair is asking, is it 930
Yes.
or is it 930,000?
1,000, yes.
That's what the chair is asking.
Oh, it's 913,000.
Wouldn't it not be 32,000? 32, so
Oh,
number.
oh, now it makes sense. Yeah. No,
Not
you.
very well aligned.
Let me see. You need to take them for e-gov training, so that they are able to move that. You see, move it a bit. It will help. No, thanks, member to play. No, I'm fine.
It's correctly, no, that. Okay, no, thanks, Jeff.
The three following questions are for DDG Nawa. The late filling of posts, which is attributed to the pending organizational structure. The question is, why is the structure not finalized, and what are the challenges in 10, and what are the mitigating factors? The next question is the vacancy rate that is high, and what are the reasons for this huge number of resignations, and what measures were considered to avert them? And the last one for you, DDG Nawa, is how does the department plan to finalize the 2018 disciplinary case, as it has not set owing to unavailability of witness?
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you very much to honorable members of the committee, MEC, and colleagues. The question has already been read. Let me go straight to the answer. The question that speaks to the late filling of post. Chairperson, the process, as indicated, has already started of the structure, and I think we're at the final end tail of the process. We have dealt with all the internal processes and external processes. We are required by law to submit the process to the Office of the Premier and the DPSA, and that has been done. We will be waiting for them to give us a final feedback. As we promised in June that we should have finished the process, they came back with new issues that we have discussed. But again, the department has to prove that we have the budget to that effect. We also had to go back to the department to determine whether the budget will be able to cover what we have promised. So I must indicate to the chair and the committee that we also have put pressure to DPSA, because these are the final arbiter of what needs to happen. So we have gone ourselves to do part. We also are activating our MEC to also start the political process to request the minister to see to it that the structure is approved. Chair, I must indicate that it's putting a huge pressure on us as management, but also in the entire function of the department, precisely because the auditors have picked it up both internal and external. And I must ensure that we assure the committee that we're doing everything humanly possible to get the structure approved. And that's the issue that I thought I should emphasize, Chair. So we are moving to get it done. In relation to the finalization of the vacancies, the Chair, you would realize that the highest part, which is 22.34%, is a combined with Liquor Board and the department. The department is 10%. We have had a move to fill all the senior position management. I'm sure Chair, we left with one, and the two of them are in the process of being concluded. So this figure would fundamentally change. We target that by the end of this year, we should be almost at 3%. However, I must indicate, which is part of the question, is that we have also experienced a number of people resigning in the department. The question asks, why are people resigning? In our exit interviews conducted, we have also picked that a lot of people have better opportunities outside, so they get a better opportunity somewhere, and people move. And most of the time, most of them are moving in the provincial government, so it's not like they leave the province. They go to different positions in Gauteng province. So if the question is why, the reason is that a lot of people get better opportunities somewhere, and thus they leave the department. What have we done to curb the situation of people resigning? We have also commissioned.
Just the DDG, before you pass this one, and it's something that you must not respond immediately, because whilst you are presenting, I'm reading through in terms of the reasons why people will resign, and part of the reasons that will have been given is that some of these resignations or people who have resigned, they pursue other business interests. Can we get, if on any of those that have resigned in the past year, are there officials that are doing business directly with the Department of Economic Development? Don't respond. You can respond to us in writing.
Thank you, Chair. We will do that, Chair. We will go back and check the list of people doing business with government. At the point, Chair, as the Chair was asking the question, I was about to answer that. Actually, I've already spoken to the exit. I was about to explain to the Chair that apart from hearing whether people are leaving, we also wanted to determine what is the satisfactory levels of the department, whether people are happy to be part of the employees. So we're well, we have commissioned a study to establish why people are leaving, and I think as the report comes out, we should be able to share with the Chair and the committee that what is the sense in the department, what are the issues that affect workers, and what are the issues that we think could cause people leaving the department. But generally also to ensure that we also develop, I think in a week, we have also approved the retention policy, which inside the policy, Chair, we also are saying let's have a interface with the department. And I'm sure we have had staff meetings, we have had different visits to different directorates to ensure that we keep the staff, and particularly those who are skillful, so that we don't lose workforce. But again, Chair, a lot of people, I think the MEC would attest that there's a lot of people who are requesting more money, more benefits, and I think the department is also saying we also can't set the wrong precedents that everybody should do. So we also are looking at what are the best way to retain the staff and improve the satisfactory levels of the department. Question number 7, which follows on the fourth quarter, the question was read about the 2018 provisional suspension. Chair, I must report that this person has been brought back. This case took long to succeed because every time the person would not be, all people who are supposed to testify, I must indicate it, I think 4 of them passed on in the process. So all people who were supposed to be to testify. Okay, can I take it up a bit? I sometimes, yeah, sorry. So the people who were supposed to give testimony, they did so. The department has brought back the person back to the department. I must indicate that the disciplinary processes have not been closed, so the process is continued, but people are back to the department. So that has been succeeding, Chair. We will be able to give activated the availability of the chair so that we are able to conclude the matter. I'm not certain, Chair, whether there's a question 19 that is related to these questions, whether should I take it now or should I wait for later? Should I do that, Chair? Question 19 is related to, yes. Chair.
You are progressive. You deserve a notch increase.
I'll appreciate you. So the question reads thus, in considering the delays in filling vacancy contribute to overall underspending, does Premier's Nasi Spani initiative assist the GDED in tracking the filling of budget vacant? And how does it assist if not, and what are the challenges faced? So, Chair, I think this program is extremely helpful because what it means is that we have now recruited for every position in the department, so it will fast track the process. And not only for the department, including the agencies. The only challenge that we think we should face and respond to quickly, and we've set up a team to respond to that it's going to take some time because we almost have more than 51,000 people who have applied for jobs. So we need to cut it down into many pieces and be able to process and shortlist that. And the Premier did indicate that it should be done before March, but we have approached the MEC that the challenge is that we will not do it as required because if we are to follow every step properly, we can only report from the 1st of November that the process will be concluded. And thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, the following questions, question 8, question 9, question 15, and question 16 are going to be responded to by DDG Nelan. Question 8 is in relation to the indicators on percentages spent on goods and services in townships and triple BEE. There was a commitment to develop a triple BEE accelerator to build capacity. However, it is not possible as the DED is the only GPG department which budgeted for Triple BEE Act implementation. Where does this leave the process? And in other words, what other options is the department exploring to foster implementation on the Triple BEE Act?
Thank you, Unat. Honorable Chairperson, honorable members of the committee, the answer to question 8 is that we are embarking on a roadshow to support various GPG departments and their agencies. And the intentions of the roadshow are to present the Act implementation processes that would cover budgeting for Triple BEE spending and implementation generally, setting of procurement targets, supplier development, enterprise development, socioeconomic development, as well as verification processes. Thank you.
Question 9 on the unattained targets.
Okay. I assume it's been read as okay, or should I read it?
Question 9.
Yeah. You read it?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay. Okay. Question 9 speaks to the unattained jobs targets, and I think the HOD touched on this. Part of what we're trying to do, Chair, Honorable Chair, is that we are trying to, on the infrastructure side, we're trying to appoint service providers to help us identify the appropriate infrastructure for GBS operations. But in addition to this, now that there seems to be some progress in securing private sector funding for the Kasi Noto project, we are expecting a stacking up of the jobs targets because that did hold us back a bit. So quarter 3 and 4 should really have a better showing. Thank you.
Okay, Didishu, thanks. Question 15, it talks again to unattained job targets, and which is attributed to the delays in partners finalizing term sheets. What does this pertain in detail, and how will it be averted in the future?
Okay, question 15, the response is that all the partners have now signed the term sheets except for IDC due to the FICA processes for the delivery of the delivery partners. So this activity should be concluded before the end of quarter 2, after which the department will accelerate implementation. The department has also finalized the appointment of service providers for the training and job placement in the following sectors: transport and logistics, otherwise known as last mile, construction, automotive sector, broadband and ICT, as well as global business services. This should be able to contribute positively to the jobs targets. Furthermore, the unit focusing on inclusive economy will advertise all the projects within 6 months before the end of the financial year to accelerate SCM processes. Thank you.
The last one, DDG, for you is the one again on non-attained targets, which is attributed to unavailability of data from the provincial treasury.
Okay, which question number?
Question 16.
Oh, 16, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
So the mitigating factor that has been given relates to issued circular and frequent reminders. So how does this assist in resolving the issue, noting that the failure to attain the provincial targets continues from the preceding financial year? And what are the reasons provided by the provincial treasury for this unavailability of data and steps taken to resolve the challenge?
Okay. So this is essentially, Honorable Chair.
Just before you proceed with the response, I know that if I was a stakeholder seated there, I will start losing patience, and it's normal. Maybe let's try to not fly through, but let's try to respond as quickly as we can to the questions so that we can be able to then go towards engaging with the agencies, and then we can be able to give, because I can assure you, I'm even looking at the body language of our stakeholders. They're starting to lose interest because they don't have documentation, and we are just too slow to respond to the questions. We are just losing the meeting. So if we can just try and move.
No, thanks, Honorable Chair. The main problem with this area of work, Chair, is that the treasury system has got a particular cycle for reporting. And that cycle necessitates that you close the quarter, and then midway in the next quarter, you get the data for the previous quarter. Now we report a bit earlier than them in the quarter. So we are only able to update our statistics after we've received the data from Treasury. So it's not something that institutionally we can achieve, because the cycle for reporting is set by National Treasury, which has to report to Parliament and so on and so on. So we depend on their cycle for us to get the data for this item. Thank you.
Thanks, Didiji. DDG. The next questions, question 10 to question 14, including question 26, are for acting DDG Hall. The first one is on the protection, on the consumer protection.
Yeah. Honorable Chair, honorable members, MEC, HOD, colleagues, stakeholders. The first question, question 10 is, did the department manage to table the consumer bill to EXCO? And what is the progress in terms of the progress? Honorable members, I must indicate that this response refers to the cycle of the 16th of August, which already started, so we missed the So we will definitely target the next cycle, chairperson and members. The reason for that is that the bill is still with the state law advisors in the Premier's office for pre-certification. I've already indicated that I want to meet with them next week, Chair and members, so that we can fast-track this long outstanding matter of the consumer bill. They basically, and I'm not going to go into detail what the state law advisors wanted, Chair. I just wanted to give you an indication where we are. So we are hopeful, Chair, that by the next portfolio committee sitting, we will then be able to indicate that the bill is in the EXCO cycle. Question 11, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, is in relation to the Gauteng Liquor Board's operational plan, targets and progress made to date, as the committee is of the view that the Gauteng Liquor Board is under-reporting in relation to liquor regulations. And I must credit the researchers, Chair and honourable members, because I think it's a very pertinent question on liquor regulations. The Liquor Act dates back to 2003. So a lot has happened in the past 20 years. So there is a real need that we need to amend the liquor regulations so that we deal with societal issues and that we deal with a number of issues in the liquor industry. So we have already the request for an RFQ, a request for quotation on the 4th of August. That process will then be embarked on, where we will get experts to deal with the regulations so that we don't have issues of comebacks again. So we will outsource this process. And I must indicate, stakeholders being here also today, that we will be consulting with the broader community and stakeholders when we deal with liquor regulations. Chair, members, question 12, what is the progress to date in addressing the issues that were raised as part of the clean break strategy? And is there progress in ensuring proper regulation of shebeens? Now, this question relates to shebeens. And Chair, it's also been a long outstanding issue for this department that we are really now working on. MEC has had various engagements lately on the shebeens and what needs to happen there. So what we've done, Chair and members, is also on Tuesday, Chair, we signed the liquor pledge in the province with the Premier, the MEC, and with various stakeholders. And as part of that pledge, it is also to encourage and assist communities to deal with this shebeen permit issue that we've been having since 2004 when we issued shebeen permits. So what we have had so far is that various meetings has been taken place, Chair and members. State law advisors have also made inputs on various aspects with regards to the shebeen applications. We will commence with public consultation also, because we're of the view that it's very important that we also get public inputs on the shebeen permits, so that we help all the shebeeners to ensure that their jobs are and businesses are sustainable. With regards to question 13, Chair, the automation system for liquor, MEC and HOD has put a lot of emphasis on us coming up with innovative processes to digitize the way we operate as a department. Now, the liquor licensing regime has been confronted with manual systems for the past 20 years. We are now, Chair, and I know we are putting this, maybe our heads on a block, but we have to implement this liquor system. We have now gone out on tender again. The tender evaluation and the bid evaluation committees will embark on their respective works in the next couple of days. And the Premier has requested that we implement this liquor system by October already, Chair and members. We will definitely try our best, but the indication is that it will be implemented in January 2024. If we say implemented, it might go live in October, but not necessarily implemented. But we are working towards January to have it fully implemented. Question 14, Chair, I think it's my last one, or second last one, is on the verification project that started 4 or 5 years ago. We are informed that this is one of the more successful projects that the Liquor Board has embarked on. We did a verification, so physically the people walked from street to street, house to house, pub, from pub to pub, hotel to hotel, to verify all licenses or all liquor outlets in the province. Approximately 10,000 of these outlets could not be verified as legal outlets. So we have now their coordinates, we know where they are, Chair, so that we can approach them, assist them to apply for licenses, and so that they become valid businesses and come into the mainstream of the economy, especially in our townships. So that process is also underway. We are working with the police and Metro Police as well to see how we can assist. So, Chair, I think those are the questions. And the other one, Unati?
Question 26, the progress on the appointment of the GGDA CEO.
26.
26, yes.
Chair, yes, on the GGDA CEO appointment, let me just get the response here. So this position has been vacant, Chair and members, for a substantial period already. Is it there or not? I can talk to it. It's been vacant for a substantial period of time already. MEC and HOD also requested that we fast track the appointment of a CEO for GGDA. We have been having some challenges, Chair. The previous CEO has a CCMA matter against the department, which is obviously an external matter because the former CEO is not in the employ anymore, but it's a CCMA matter. The acting CEO who took over, term expired, and that acting CEO also then challenged the MEC and the GGDA for, let's call it legitimate expectation, to be appointed as the CEO after the expiry of his contract. So that matter is also unfortunately part of a pending litigation matter between the GGDA board and the MEC. And as a result, the MEC was advised not to proceed with the matter pending the finalization of the court case. There's a part A and a part B. The part A is well known in the public. I see it's in the media. But part B is the main matter now that will be argued in court, and we believe it will be in November. So thank you, Chair. And then we will obviously then proceed.
These new technologies, we must go back to our olden days of... Just before you sit down, just clarity, we get to the issues related to litigations and stuff. So are you making reference to two separate court cases? The previous CEO that was appointed and the one that was 18, both of them, they've went before court. I just want that clarity.
Okay, so one is a court case in the High Court by the acting CEO whose term expired 3-4 months ago. And in order not to hinder the process of service delivery, the MEC then appointed an acting CEO. which is Mr. Saki Zamkaka, who's the CEO of GEP. So he's continuing that portfolio as well, so that we at least have service delivery. So there's the one matter, that is a litigation matter in the Pretoria High Court. The other matter is a labor matter, CCMA matter, with the former CEO. Thank you, Chair.
The next questions are going to be responded to by Dr. Begazulu, the CEO of TASES. Question 17 and question 49 to question 53. The first question is the GDED should provide a detailed breakdown, an account of the huge underspending, which is 67%, and how does the department plan to fast-track spending in the upcoming quarters?
Thank you, Honorable Chair, members, HOD, stakeholders, and colleagues. In regards to our question 17 and 53, I'm going to answer that simultaneously because it's the similar question. I think the question was around the underspending. Safe to say that at the time...
CEO,
Yes.
you are not following us.
Okay.
And I know that you've been with us. It's not like you arrived late. We said when there's a question related to yourself, you speak to Q1 performance, just give us an executive summary.
Okay.
Then you respond to your question so that we don't come back and we agree, we can spend the whole day.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so you just give us your executive summary in terms of your performance, but not the financial performance, the non-financial performance. We'll deal with the financial performance in the second quarter and the fourth quarter. In fact, the annual report.
Okay. No, thanks. With regards to, thank you, Chair. With regards to your performance, safe to say that at the time of reporting, we had achieved 3 of our targets. But safe to say right now, we've actually exceeded that target of Q1 by up to 33%. So we have fully achieved our target as we speak. And also the next Q2 target will also be achieved in that particular time. I think there was just a slight mismatch in terms of time of reporting versus us achieving the target, which was linked to SMME packages. So I think we have achieved that. We are on track. So I think that also then talks to the issues of the SMME packages that we are also have awarded as part of our township economy development, which were now fully awarded all those packages. And we are achieving quite a number of progress in that regard. Then if I maybe move to then, Chair, with allowance to the next question, 49. In terms of, I think this is also linked to what I spoke about. We have also exceeded our job target. We've created 164 jobs, and 102 of those jobs were for youth, and which is also 62% of youth employment. And then out of those jobs, 8 were for the disabled, which also represents 4.9%. And also then the 43 jobs were for female predominantly. But I must say that in overall, in our SEZ, we've overachieved the target of women, because most people who are working on SEZ are women. It's just that the overall composition of the summary involves also construction jobs, which were lower, slightly lower for women. I think then that takes me to the last question, which talks to the power challenges. We have overcoming the power challenges. Safe to say that by next month, end of next month, we'll have our Easter Fabric power supply, which was a collaboration between ourselves, the city, and ESCOM, in order for us to free the Waterloo connection so that we can have the required 16 MVA that we had targeted to township establish and also secure our power supply in the zone. I thank you, Chair. I think those are my two last questions. Thanks.
The next questions are on financials.
Oh, okay. I think on the financials, we're safe to say that at the time of report, oh no, oh.
I think the next question was on, it's question 20, where the department was requested to provide details, project and the budget and the committed budget, and also the remedial action in place. That's with regard to all the projects that are under spending. So we've provided the details, in terms of the projects and the respective, budgets. Most of those projects are related to, professional services, which basically require the finalization of the service level agreement between the department and the potential, service providers, where the department would be having MOUs and MOAs with them. So those service level agreements will be concluded. In fact, most of them are being finalized. So in the next quarter, which is Q2 or the current quarter, there should be basically progress in terms of the spending. The value of those projects, they amount to about 34 million. So the department will be fast tracking that part, because the SLAs, most of them have been concluded. And then the rest of the projects are still undergoing different stages of procurement. And then what we've done, Chairperson, we had capacity issues as well, within the finance. One of our key personnel, which is the director of procurement, subsequently basically actually moved to another department. But now, to mitigate against that, now we then say in Q2, we'll then fast track, those, procurement to go through. So meaning that now all the project managers are, have been made aware that we need basically to fast track, the procurement processes so that we can make sure that we fast track the spending. And there was a question on, it was question 24, where the department is required to provide details on township and hostel, spent in the first quarter. We have spent 2.1 million around, the township and hostel in the first quarter. And we've provided also the details of the service providers, which basically, we have done business with. I think from finance, those are the questions and responses. Thanks.
Thanks, Ronald. DDG Nelana, there is a question for you on the Kasi Umnoto and also on Uber Eats, which is question 21 and question 22 and question 23.
So, Ronald, is it question 21 or 22? Okay, thank you. My apologies, Chair. So the question reads as follows. The GDED should provide details of the 25 manufacturers incubated and 18 stores refurbished through the Gase Umnoto oversight for oversight purposes, including conduct details and budget spent. Chair, I must say that our response to this question is not adequate. We will provide these details to the committee for purposes of for what is asked. What we've provided is basically background to the question, but not the exact answer. Question 23, the department should provide a breakdown of the 200 million invested in the Uber Eats project. The long and short of it is that the 200 million is a commitment made by the delivery partner, which is Uber, in supporting the program in its rollout. So there is no budget from the institution that goes to the participants in the program, but rather it's an investment made by Uber into the program. And that supports them from acquiring business skills to the actual operational systems that are required for implementing the program. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, DDG. Question?
Just on the record, are you saying we are not spending anything on this program?
Yes, Chair, the 200 million that is being asked is resources of Uber Eats, not the department.
DDG, we are not spending any of our funds on this project.
Not at this stage, Chair. Thank you.
I agree, you know you are on record, ne? We don't want tomorrow we have been told a service provider was appointed. We paid 45 million to facilitate the relationship. That's what I'm saying. Remember, you are on record. When a committee of inquiry led by a retired judge is convened, we don't want to be asked where was the oversight committee. You can proceed.
Thanks, Chair. Question 25 to question 32, with the exception of 26, are for GGDA, which will be taken by the acting CEO.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and committee members. Overall performance of GGDA is 76%, which is a bit of an improvement compared to the previous quarter. Main areas where there isn't performance, which also actually relates to a lot of the questions, has been on infrastructure projects. And there's a detailed breakdown on the answer on where the non-performance has been. But to try and summarize it, on the industrial hubs, they are the ones for the previous year which are done by the DBSA. We expect that they will be concluded. And then there's 3 for the current financial year, where the process of appointing the professional teams and the contractor is taking place. So we expect that in Q2 that should be concluded. The GIDZ, which was meant to be in August, we expect that the launch should be in October. There were some challenges, they have been resolved, but the project is pretty much on track. As I say, we expect that in October it should be launched. Visitor Center in Cornhill is the one that has had challenges with a contractor that didn't perform. We then tried various means to assist them because they appeared to have cash flow issues, but that didn't work. We asked them for a catch-up plan, which didn't work, so we've now given them a notice to terminate the project. We are then going through that project where they'd initially given a catch-up plan. So that's the one project where we have a bit of challenges in what is happening. Biopark had previous challenges in the previous years. We've now had a catch-up. It was meant to be concluded in December, and we've now moved 1 month up in terms of the practical completion, which is basically the structure. So those are the key projects under EPMO that we're dealing with. But as I'm saying, there's a lot more detail in the actual question where we give the amounts and the breakdowns and everything else. I don't know, Unati, if there's a part of the question I didn't answer. Thanks.
This one is very progressive.
The next question is from question 33.
Whilst stakeholders and officials, whilst we are taking questions, I must indicate there's tea outside. The staff had requested that we break for tea, but it's going to delay us. So if you want to grab a cup of tea and something to eat, you can just go outside and come back. Yeah, let's proceed.
Thanks, Chair. Question 33 and question 34 are for JEP.
Let's do it quietly, please. Let's do it quietly, please.
CEO, I would ask you to respond to question 34 because question 33 we've availed an annexure as an attachment. So question 34 is the one that speaks to the Youth Accelerator Program.
Thank you, Chair, again. Performance of GEP for the quarter was at 91%, so 10 out of 11 targets were met. The one which wasn't met is the youth program on the disbursements. We had an issue we needed to clarify with the board, which had caused a delay on the disbursements, but approvals had been done, so that has since been resolved, and we've been able to start doing some of those disbursements. But overall, already the performance was at 91%. The question Unati is responding to was a detail on the contracts that has been provided. And then on the youth, where the contracts, it is said, were terminated, it wasn't really a termination, it was the end of the contract period which they were given. We actually restructured our program where we made the term a little bit longer, so when the contracts end, we appoint new people into the youth program, and we've started for the current financial year to appoint. Thank you.
Thanks, CEO. The next questions are for the CEO of GTA. Question 35, 36, until question 39.
And when I CEO, you are coming to the West End, then you don't invite the committee to the Big Hawk. You must also clarify yourself on that part.
Apologies, Honorable Chair,
You are
Honorable
busy there
members.
in the West End doing some Big Hawk.
You've got the invite. We'll triple check that. I thought the committee has
You
received.
can even see our body. We need to walk.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable members and colleagues. Performance of the GTA for quarter one, we're sitting at 80%. The area which we didn't perform is around the infrastructure or tourism assets in townships, informal settlements and hostels. We had delays in terms of engaging with all the stakeholders involved, the municipalities as well as the tourism associations. But we're now, we got the ball rolling. We've now started the procurement process. We should be able to catch up on this one in quarter 2 and quarter 3. On the questions, Onati? From question 35, it's pertaining to the hosted Soweto investment conference that was held between 22-23 June. And the request is for the department to highlight how the intended aim of increased economic impact was realized, as well as the number of jobs that were created during the hosting of the event. So as the GTA on behalf of the department, we assisted Soweto Tourism to host an investment conference. We had total attendees of 735 over the 2 days with 52 exhibitors. And the 2 days resulted, Chair and Honorable members, in 4.7 million rand value generated through the events and an increase of bed nights and spent around the community. The other thing that the event contributed is SMEs, business opportunities. All the businesses that were used were Soweto-based suppliers for goods and services that were used for the event. And also they presented potential investment opportunities that are market ready to investors, so that would need a follow through. In terms of jobs, direct and indirect jobs that were generated through the 2 days was 114, and other jobs were generated through service providers that were delivering services at the investment conference itself. There is a report that is available, which we will share with UNATI and the committee members. Question 36, in terms of the tourism infrastructure, there was a request that the department should detail the specific goods and services targeted for regarding the reprioritized allocation for the Ga-Rankuwa Hotel School. Currently, the allocation for Ga-Rankuwa Hotel School is 2.1 million, and this amount was transferred from the department to the GTA, and the goods and services targeted is the skills operations, so we're using that money for training. We are also using the same allocation for fixed cost, like electricity, ESCOM, telecom bills, as well as the municipality. We also are using the allocation to just do minor facilities maintenance whilst we're waiting for the bigger project to upgrade the facility. So it's cleaning, small repairs, as well as garden and maintenance. Question number 37 is, during the previous reporting period, gaps in the verification of performance information was cited pending the impact evaluation study. How far is the process of the impact evaluation study and its findings? Honorable Chair and members, we have concluded the impact study. We looked at all the events that were supported as part of the bidding and hosting. We've highlighted the key events that were sampled as part of the study. The data collected from the events and analyzed show that there has been an economic impact from the events that were supported. About 8,588 jobs were created out of all the events that were supported during the period under review, which was the previous year. And of the jobs, 45% were created through partnership with the GTA, through the bidding and hosting. There was also a thing around, a question around the rent value. We have determined the rent value from that has been generated. The direct impact was about 4.2 billion from all of these events that have been supported. Question 38 is around the GTA should provide an update progress report on filling of the key positions, inclusive of CFO, corporate management, company secretary and manager revenue generation, as well as head destination planning. We have concluded the recruitment for the company secretary. We are, I think, ahead of schedule in terms of filling the other two positions, which is the chief financial officer. We're having interviews by end of August. We have put on hold a couple of positions pending the finalization of the new structure and presenting it to the MEC, which will be done by end of September. The other issue that we had was that we didn't have enough budget to conclude all the relevant positions. So all of that would be dealt with by end of September. I think those were the, oh sorry, there's question number 37. On overspending, there's a huge overspending in the destination management and development program. The department should provide details of the overspending. So for Q1, we had a lot, we've created a lot of market access platforms, which most of them were international. So this means, Honorable Chair and members, that we've taken a lot of SMEs to these platforms. We've listed the activities that we've done, but the notable ones are at World Travel Market. It's not London, it's Africa. we've taken about 5 SMEs, but for Africa's Travel Indaba, where we had about 300 international buyers, we took 30 of our SMEs there. We partnered with the likes of your rent show, where we provided a market access platform for SMEs to sell their product, as well as during this seasonal campaign. So we have had a bit of overspending there, but of this balance of the 98%, it relates to bidding and hosting activities that we engaged in. Hence, there was a bit of overspending. Thanks, Chair. I think those were the questions for the GTA.
Thanks, CEO. The next questions are for Cradle of Humankind and Dinokeng projects.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Morning, honorable members.
Can you also address this issue of the lion that killed the worker in your? No. It's a serious matter. We want you to also give us an update on this matter related to the lions having killed one of your workers.
I was going to speak on the performance.
So you don't work for Dinokeng?
I do.
So you don't know anything that is happening in Dinokeng?
Ebambe.
Thank you very much, Chair. My name is Wandile. I'm the Chief Director for Dinokeng and Cradle. Just to respond or give an update on the question that you are raising around the unfortunate tragic death of Mr. Johannes. Mr. Johannes was actually working for one of the establishments that are located in Dinokeng. So what has happened thus far, there has been an engagement with the family and also the employer, and in as far as supporting the family through the DGRMA, we are going to be represented at the funeral, but also the DGRMA is making a contribution towards the burial cost. But because the community was also very much concerned, yesterday there was a meeting with the stakeholders, and there was an agreement that in the coming days and weeks, we'll need to accelerate our awareness programs. Firstly, looking at the people that live within the game reserve, especially the workers, because the arrangement really, Chair, is that when the workers want to access their places, there's an arrangement between them and their employers to transport them there. And unfortunately, on the day that Mr. Johannes died, the report is that he did try to contact the employers to pick him up, and there was an arrangement to meet at the gate. They do report that they went 3 times, they didn't see him. And unfortunately then on Monday, there was this discovery. But there has been engagement, and there is support that has been provided to the family, and the police are also investigating. We've also approached GDAT around what needs to happen to the 3 young lions that actually attacked him, and applied that they need to be put down. We're just waiting for GDAT to give that approval. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I'll speak on behalf of Cradle and Dinogeng in terms of performance for Q1. Of the 9 indicator targets that we had, we achieved 7 out of 9. And of the 2 that we did not achieve, it was purely on duplication of activities. Thank you.
The first question for Cradle is, what is the updated progress report on the conversion process, noting VET's challenges?
All right, no, thank you very much, Chair. In relation to the conversion, the department or the entity through the state attorney is proceeding to put in place a process to convert MAL into an NPC. So we are being assisted by the legal department to work through the state attorney to get that done. And then the second question related to under expenditure, and we needed to provide a mechanism of what we're going to do moving forward. The first area related to Dinogeng, which was really linked to a delay in finalizing the SLA. The SLA has now been finalized. We don't foresee any expenditure moving forward, so that issue is under control. The second one, in as far as credit is concerned, related to a delay in finalizing the procurement process for somebody to come and do vegetation management. That is also in an advanced stage, and we anticipate to implement in the second quarter.
Thanks, Chair. The last set of questions, which is question 42 to question 48, are for the GGB.
Thank you, Chair, MEC, and honorable members, colleagues and the stakeholders. I'll just summarize our performance for Q1 for Gauteng Gambling Board. In Q1, we had 8 targets, and our performance are at 87.5.
So introduce yourself.
Oh, my name is Masakona Mushapo. I work for the Gauteng Gambling Board. I work as a stakeholder relations manager and head of performance and monitoring. I'll give a summary of the Q1 performance. We had 8 targets. We achieved 7. One of the 7 is overachieved. That is in line with what we are doing in eradicating the illegal gambling and making sure that we close sites. Our target for the quarter was at 100, but we managed to achieve 167 rates. There is one target that was not achieved, but it was deferred. The target talked to the percentage of the number of existing licenses that we need to upgrade or impose license conditions so that they align to the transformational agenda of the BBBEE. So in essence, on any other of the targets that we were looking at for Q1, we did achieve them. I'll go straight to the questions that were asked. Question 42. It says, what are the findings derived from the concluded stakeholder engagements aimed at resuscitating horse racing? The engagements are in progress as per the visits that we are doing. And then we also want to confirm and appreciate the appointment of the new board, which will further assist because we are engaging with the other provincial licensing authorities with regards to how we need to do the legislation review, but also how best we'll be able to improve on our revenue collection. We're intending to introduce a sliding scale on our casino tax. We've been taxing our casinos for the past years at a rate of 9%. So we want to introduce the sliding scale as per the others that are doing, KZN and Western Cape. And thanks, the board has been appointed. We will be able to can do that. On 43, the answer there talks to the last quarter with regard to a non-achievement of a target on Sports Development Fund. The target was at 24 million. We managed to disburse 10 million. However, the 14 million was committed, but unfortunately it was disbursed in April, so we will not be able to claim it for the last quarter. So hence there was an indication of an underachievement on that target. Number 44, on the issue related to Phumelela. The Phumelela is a former licensed horse racing which has taken us to court. However, colleagues must also understand that 4 Racing has assumed the role of Phumelela as a totalizator, and then the same 4 Racing has also served a joinder application seeking to join Phumelela with regard to the litigation that they're advancing towards us. On the litigations that we have as the Gauteng Gambling Board, we have 13 unopposed matters, and 4 of them are unopposed. And then the opposed matters consist of 12 civil court cases and 1 labor court application. On the 45, it talks about the interview of the CEO. Indeed, the interviews were conducted and the results were submitted to EXCO for ratification. Currently, the acting CEO is steering the ship and has been further extended to run the institution, and the appointment of the permanent CEO or full-time CEO is still going to be ratified by EXCO. On the reports of filling in the management positions, we still appreciate the appointment of the new board, and then there's a process of reviewing an organizational structure. So however, the positions that are outstanding will pend the ratification and the approval of the proposed structure by the new board. The only senior position that has been filled is that of a company secretary. On the 9 acting positions, and coupled with 5 senior officials that are on precautionary suspension, indeed, the disciplinary hearing is on progress and it is starting to gain momentum. This is after a loss of litigation that those suspended officials were advancing to us. So it has been finalized and the disciplinary hearing process has kick-started and is gaining momentum. We hope to finalize it by the end of this quarter. 46. On the gender responsive and how we report, the numbers have been there. There's a table that talks to GOD targets and then the amount that we spent for advancing entrepreneurship and women, youth, and people with disability. Thank you.
Thanks, Chairperson. That concludes the questions for both the department and the entities, and that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, HOD, and thanks to all the presenters as well as the MEC. Honorable members, let me start on my far left. Any comments, questions? Honorable Alabet? Honorable Badenhorst? Honorable Atkinson?
Yes, Chair. In the presentation, there was a breakdown of the budgets, and there was underspending. Sorry, do you want to just continue? Keep it down. Just carry that down. That next one. Okay. It was DED expenditure per budget program. And 87% of the budget had been spent for this past quarter, sorry. It was DED expenditure per budget program, and 87% of the budget had been spent this past quarter. But the one interesting point was economic planning had only spent 33% of its budget. And I was just wondering what was the cause of that? Because obviously it's a smaller part of the overall budget, so that quite significant underperformance in the economic planning part of the economic planning program is kind of hidden by the fact that we had good performance in the larger part. So I was just wondering if we can get an explanation about why we're sitting at 33% on economic planning. And then the second question was actually about the Gauteng Liquor Board and about the Premier's recent launch of 800 new inspectors to go out, 800 new liquor inspectors to go out and try and enforce the law as far as the Liquor Board is concerned, which was reported in the newspapers in the last day or two. And I was just wondering where the budget comes from to pay those 800 liquor inspectors, and when they're likely to actually come into effect as well. So it was announced 2 days ago, but when is that likely to take effect, and how's it going to be paid for as well? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Atkinson. Honorable Du Plessis.
All right. I'm not sure how one can start a presentation that shows 0.6% economic growth and say GDED is working. I'm a little confused by that. I just want to start with that. I'm further confused by the fact that the slide on KPIs were not discussed at all. How are you reporting on a working entity and blaming it on other entities or other departments within the Gauteng legislature, but you're not reporting on your KPIs? There are a few things I do want to point out. On slide 5, I just want to know where you got your definition of poor. In research and independent research, it says that over 35% of people in Gauteng miss a meal in a day. That's a definition of poor. That's a definition of somebody living under the breadline. And here it's reported as there are 19% of people on the lower bound poverty line. That's, in my opinion, a gross misrepresentation of the amount of people that really are living without food. I then I did ask about that. And then there was a goal that you guys spoke about, and it is the goal of the GDED, which is economic growth and the reduction of poverty. I can't see this in any reports. I can't see this in the annual reports that we've just looked through for last year. In fact, there are only 4,000 jobs that were created. So either we're doing something wrong, if you keep on doing the things in the same way and expecting a different result. But if you have economic growth of 0.6% in the economic hub of a country, how are you not ashamed of yourself? Because when I engage with people on the ground, which I often do, and the amount of tears that people feel because they cannot get employment, but you say you're working, and you blame it on other entities within the legislature, that concerns me greatly. It also concerns me, again, and I want to reiterate this point, that if your aim is 12,000 jobs, but there are 5.6 million unemployed people in Gauteng, are you doing your job? These are really direct questions. I'm also concerned about the fact that we have a clean audit, and then, for example, last year's annual report, the expenditure of budget was 87%, but the KPIs was 28%. So how do you overspend and underperform and get a clean audit? There's a question for me there, and there seems to be a systemic problem. Then I always like comparing apples with apples, and I've just pulled up a statistic on the economic growth or the GDP growth of other BRICS countries. So we partnered with BRICS because they have similar situation to what we have as South Africa. In 2022, China grew, or their GDP grew by 18,000 American dollars. 18,000. Brazil by 1,924 American dollars. Russia, while in war, I just want to say, 2,000 American dollars. South Africa, 400 American dollars. Something's not working. And you can give wonderful reports. I'm almost done, Chair. I can see you almost, you're giving me a bit of pressure here. We can have all the big words. And there are a few things that I really want to ask. There wasn't one presentation that I found passion in. I mean, we are creating, or you should be creating, opportunities for your fellow South Africans. Where's the passion? Where's the joy? And genuinely, what is going wrong if there is no actual growth? Something is broken. Thank you, Chair.
On Member Du Plessis, do you want to correct your numbers?
What numbers? What did I say?
You said 18 million.
18,000.
Okay.
I did say
Thank you.
18,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I did say 18,000, but
Okay.
thank you, Chair, for checking. Oversight is important.
Sure. Member Albert.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentations by the department. Yes, South Africa is in trouble. Many people are losing hope. Member Du Plessis has quite aptly indicated what the problems are that we are facing, and they are huge, but they can be solved. But it must be solved by us. And I think we definitely need a greater resolve and a greater focus on economic growth, especially from this department. I do understand that some of the aspects of growth are dependent on other departments as well, but this department needs to take the lead and must take the lead in that regard. I think one of the things that I don't see in the reports, and I'm not sure if that lies or vests, statutory obligation vests with the Premier's office, but I don't see any investments from outside South Africa coming into Gauteng. I think in terms of our economic history that we have so far, as well as the pandemic that hit our economy, and various other factors in the world that plays into our economy. Even though national government looks at investments, we must also be doing that. I'm going to tell you a story about something that really irked me when I went to New York with the OCPOL committee, and we saw one of the financial advisors of the mayor of New York to talk about opportunities for Gauteng and so forth. And he told us that there's a twinning agreement between the city of Johannesburg and the city of New York. And we asked him, well, we don't know about that. Where's the twinning agreement and how old is it and is anything happening? And he said, well, they signed it in the early 2000s and it's just lying in a drawer. Nothing's happening. Now that's something that is very disconcerting. I know it's on a city level, but it seems like nobody is trying to actually actively go out and speak to the various investment agencies and state-level governments in the United States and big economic countries to ensure that we get investment. With the current rand-dollar exchange rate and with the talent pool that we have and the number of people who are talented but not employed, we should be focusing on these things. We should really be focusing hard on these things. We can only create so much of an economy on our own, pull us up on our own by our own bootstraps. But we also need that outside assistance. And upon speaking to the New York government, New York State government, the Maryland government, even Washington, D.C., they are very willing to engage with us to talk about investment opportunities. So we must do that, and I think that must become part of our objectives in this specific department. One of the things that I saw, and this is the last thing I want to mention in the presentation, if we look at the number of jobs created through township economy programs, So only 4,679 out of a target of 12,500. The reason is that the partners are finalizing the term sheet to kickstart the fund. I just want to ask, does that refer to the Township Economic Bill or Act fund itself, or is this a different fund? Because I was under the impression that the Township Economic Fund has already been established. This is very important because people out there who are entrepreneurs, who are jobless, people are jobless and can't find other jobs, must become entrepreneurs to survive. They have no choice. So there must be a fund that will be able to assist them, and that fund must be kicked off fairly quickly to try and save these people from this situation of abject poverty. We must break this cycle. So this is just one example of something that concerns me that we have not done properly, that must be finalized, and it's within our control, over and above the fact that we must also be looking at foreign investment. So if you can just give me an indication if foreign investment is on your radar at all and how it will unfold, and obviously what is happening with this fund that should have been created, it seems it has not been created yet. And we will be participating. Are there businesses going to put money into the fund? Big business, can I help you there? Is there a private-public partnership going to be implemented and so forth, so that we can get people, especially in the townships where the most poverty are residing at the moment and greatest joblessness numbers are, to get those people, to give those people a sense of real hope, tangible hope. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Chair, for this opportunity. I've heard that the economy has grown for 0.6, is it 0.6%? But I don't see any movement in the colored areas because the colors have been excluded for decades. And I believe there's a norm that economic development doesn't want to work in the colored communities, because wherever you go in a colored community, you don't find a hub. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. And I wonder, don't you see us, people? Don't you see us? Are we not being recognized? Because I think this is very wrong. How can you say that the economy grew if there's no movement in the colored areas? Thank you.
Chair of Chairs, anything from your side? Thank you, Chair of Chairs. Member Letwalo.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let's appreciate all the presentation as well as the report from the department. Well, my reading into the report, well, at least as consolidated, also factoring in the work of the different agencies, is that there is work that is being done. But possibly the weakness resides in the disaggregation of how, the output of each of the agencies is really recorded. Such that if you were to aggregate, you might be able to determine, the overall impact as coordinated by the department. So it's a conversation that we must have around how to build the convergences. Otherwise, it might be a bit distortive. Somebody might assume that the output of GGDA on its own may not be correlated with, the output of GEP. Whereas, if you were to read the two, as one, because the prism is the same, if you will. So, it's about, the economic outlook, not so much about the independence and isolation of either of the agencies. So my suggestion would have been that we really need to find a way of consolidating our reports so that our assessment transcends, micro, economic considerations, but it's much more, transcendent, if you will. And I would want to believe that if we were to do that, you will then be able to detect, the kind of interventions that the department does, because there are major interventions that are there. You can see it, but yeah, so long as we have disaggregated, it might still remain a challenge. I mean, one such area is the third, projects. And in one of the meetings that we had recently, I was arguing that we really need an organic dashboard, to really sort of trace all these interventions that have been coordinated. Because somebody might speak about one area in neglect of the other, and therefore you might not necessarily be able to complete the picture. So the optics around how you rationalize the overall mandate of the department, and of course considering the work of agencies, is something that we should be reviewing. But having said so, there are instances where, there may be systemic weaknesses that we really need to look into. And one of them, around the liquor, regulation and compliance, matters. I mean, I detected one anomalous occurrence, which sort of subverts the efforts of, the authority, if you will. Whereas the actual, administrators undermine the process or the system, in that whereas ordinarily there are legislative prescripts, sort of informing the processes around the acquisition of the licenses. What you will find on the ground is that there's a bypass of that system. There's an issuance of a permit to sort of undermine licenses. And so even if somebody may not necessarily be qualifying, temporarily they are issued a license. But we know that in circumspect, those permits are now converted and presented as if they were licenses, but they are not licenses, So it's one such area, and hence they were seeing a proliferation because somebody might be organizing an event for the weekend. They are given a permit. And for some peculiar reason, they start to believe, well, I operated for this past 2 days, why not extend? And of course, there will always be a willing administrator who might want to take, some modicum of a bribe or something to undermine the system. So it might not necessarily be something that is residing within the authority itself, but it could be with the administrator. So a conversation about how to strengthen, enforcement, inspectorate function becomes all too crucial. But lastly, Chair, I think one of the areas which I suppose could be the biggest contributor to some of these weaknesses, and I think as we speak about weaknesses, there should be an understanding that it's not an obscurity of the overall performance of the department, because somebody might argue that and miss the point. Of course, in any terrain, a workforce, a terrain, you are bound to have glitches here and there systematically. You are never really going to find a foolproof system. But if you will, for me, there may be a case to be made around remodeling your internal control unit and centralize it, because as it stands, I mean, you will find that it's a different business units, whereas you could actually elevate it so that there's a greater oversight that the unit would be playing, but also ensuring that you can actualize on some of the measures to really turn around the situation there. So I just really thought, you know, those are specific areas that we really need to look into. And if I may, Chair, you know, economic planning also is important. So the content of economic planning becomes, so it's not a passive program, you know. If you will, it becomes the bulwark of what informs the overall spectacle of the department, including the agencies, you know. So there should be greater coordination around this specific space so that we don't miss an opportunity, you know, to really remodel but also recalibrate, you know, our efforts towards ensuring that there's a, you know, greater economic impetus. But yeah, thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Tswalo. Stakeholders, we want to allow the MEC to respond because she had apologized that she needs to leave at 12. Then the HOD and other senior officials will respond to your questions, but it's important that she must respond to what members will have raised. But from my side, MEC and HOD, I think looking at your overall performance in terms of Q1, we need to look on how you project your spending over the 4 different quarterly reports, because your first quarter financial performance vis-a-vis your non-financial performance, they don't correlate. It's because of on your first quarter performance, you transfer a huge amount of money to your entities. Maybe look at your planning cycle so that we don't have that disjuncture moving forward, because that's what I would have picked up, that when you look at your targets, they are very low, but your expenditure is a bit high. But the obvious explanation is because of the transfers that you make to your agencies. And I think on GGDA, MEC, I need to start by indicating that you need to send a very clear message to your board that they are not a law into themselves. I want you to send that very clear message to them. This portfolio committee, we don't report to the GGDA board. And that thing must be very clear. Because it seems like there's a board that behaves as if they are bigger than anybody in Gauteng. And that message must be sent very clear. When we invite the GGDA board to come and appear before this portfolio committee, they don't do us a favor. Let me see. They don't do us a favor. It's our constitutional responsibility to do oversight over the department and its agencies. So you must tell that board led by that chairperson that this chairperson of this portfolio committee is saying they are not the law into themselves. When we say they must appear, they can't be saying to us we must come and appear where they are having a strategic plan. It's a worst kind of undermining to this portfolio committee. And we took very serious exceptions to how they responded to us. So for future reference, MEC, you must tell that board that we raised those particular issues. And we are going to come back and engage with the GGDA board, because we have been, you are disturbing my thought, Chair. We have been observing a number of their behavior towards this portfolio committee. Even before I became the chair here, I was checking with the staff, when was the last time that board appeared before this portfolio committee? Every now and then when we invite them, it's either there is an apology for them to come and appear, but they are very quick to appear on national television, or they are very quick to take you to court. So you must tell them that this committee is taking serious exceptions. Their responsibility is to come and to appear before this particular portfolio committee, and we'll engage with them moving forward. Similarly, GGB, your responses are not satisfactory. I think we will be coming directly to yourself so that we engage on a number of issues that will also picked up. On a number of occasions, we've been advising you that you need to look on the online revenue that you are losing as the Gauteng Gambling Board, because you are not doing enough. Most of you who watch different online betting sites, you will see that they are regulated from different provinces, but they are operating throughout the country. And we are losing a huge amount of revenue, and it's something that we really need to zoom into and that industry, it's growing, and it's not necessarily benefiting this province, because Gauteng, in terms of population, in terms of GDP and otherwise, is the biggest. So we need to be able to earn that revenue out of that particular process. So it's an engagement that we are going to have with yourself moving forward. Going back to GGDA, I think you are under-reporting on your infrastructure. We are of the view that you are under-reporting on your infrastructure projects. I don't know whether there are things that you are hiding from us or not, but it's a discussion that we must take forward. You've got a number of infrastructure projects that are happening within the GGDA, but when you submit your quarterly reports, we don't know whether there are things that you are hiding. You don't really give us a true sense to understand the infrastructure development that we are doing on behalf of the province, especially as it relates to infrastructure based on economic development. And maybe lastly, MEC, because others will keep it. You know, it's the first quarter. We can't engage much on the first quarter. Maybe moving forward we'll engage. But lastly, there's this elephant in the room called family tree. MEC. And I know that the researcher came here and Thabo also, our manager for the portfolio committee, and they were indicating that we missed that particular very important question as it relates to a family tree. MEC, we want an explanation as to why would we fund a service provider to implement a program, but that service provider will then own 51% of that service. It does not make sense. It's pure corruption. It does not make sense. That is why I'm saying we need to attend to the elephant in the room, which is the family tree. Because what our researchers will have found out when it comes, is it distribution centers? Distribution centers, something must be clearly explained there. You can't have a situation, I fund you with my own money as provincial government. You fund somebody, but you own 51%. It does not make sense. So it's a discussion that we are going to have with yourself, MEC, and we will need the explanation. And still, MEC, you are still quiet, your department, and you must understand, MEC, we are making a reference to you because you are the executive authority, you are responsible for this department. That is why I will keep on making reference to you. You are continuously keeping quiet about, I don't know how to call them. Because some in your documents, you call them technical advisory, council committee. Sometimes you call them war room. It depends what side of the bed you wake up on when you send us the report. That's another elephant that we must continuously have an engagement on them. You can't have people who are part and parcel of technical advisory councils, but they are being paid as a service provider by the department. It can be, MEC. Some of you, your technical advisory committee or war room members, they've got CSDs, they are being paid as service providers. something does not make sense. Why are your boards being paid board fees? But this one's, what's so special about them? That we pay them millions of rands, and continuously you are not reporting on that, unless maybe you are getting something from them, MEC. You must explain to us as this portfolio committee. Because you can't pay individuals millions of rands, but members of boards, their fees are being regulated. And I'm repeating, what's so special about these ones? You can respond, MEC.
Thanks, Chair, and thank you to the Portfolio Committee members for the questions. Chair, I'll attempt to respond to some of the questions that are not technical in nature, and those that are, the DDGs and the HOD can respond to. Maybe it's just to start with the question on BRICS. So our membership to BRICS is not because we are the same as any of the BRICS countries. BRIC without South Africa was established to create an alternative economic bloc, and South Africa joined it with that in mind. There's nothing similar between us and any of the BRICS countries. They have got bigger populations, they have got bigger GDPs, they have got, in fact, our trade between each and every single BRIC country, independently and individually, is at a trade deficit, because our biggest trading partner is the Eurozone and the USA. So, however, BRICS countries, the 5 BRICS countries together combined, including ourselves, now currently contribute and account for 1/3 of the world's GDP. Number one. Number two, we account for, I think it's about 40% or slightly more of the world population. Number three, the BRICS countries as an economic bloc has surpassed even the G7 countries. India is now the 5th largest economy in the world. Brazil is the 8th largest economy in the world. And our membership to BRICS was because we saw an opportunity that is presented by being a member of the BRICS, where you have huge population, you have an opportunity to create an alternative bloc, and where we are currently is to be able to narrow the trade deficit between ourselves and each BRICS country or BRIC country, because currently our trade between each country is at a deficit. I think at a particular point, Chair, we can invite or I'm suggesting to the Portfolio Committee that the Portfolio Committee should have an interaction with the BRICS Business Council, so that we have an appreciation of what BRICS is and what are the opportunities it presents for South Africa, and why we are members of it. So we're not members of BRICS because we are equal. We are not equal to China, and I don't think we could be equal to China possibly in the next 15 years. We can't be equal to India even in the next 15 years. But there are huge opportunities for us to be able to narrow trade deficit between those countries and assist in creating an alternative economic bloc. That is the intention behind BRICS. The second issue on the related to the second issue, I think, Chair, let me say that portfolio committees and accounting for quarterly performance and then later annual performance follows a particular methodology. So you have an APP and we must come and account against the APP. Not everything that the department does is found in the APP. So if you speak about the question that I think Member Albert spoke about, where is the international investment? Our international investment can be found in all the SEZs. We can come and present the detail. Currently, we are finalizing an investment that will be about up to close to 4 billion rand with Citibank. Citibank is an American bank, and they will be housed at the Vaal SEZ. So we can come and present that, but it's not information that you will find in the APP. So when we come to report on quarterly performance, it's against the APP. So a lot of the information would either be lost in translation, or it's something that we just have to find a way of balancing when we come to report. But if you look at each and every SEZ, where we are located now is very close to the OR Tambo SEZ. Majority of those companies are international companies, all invested money on their own. So we can come and do presentations on that, quantify it with the figures, what are the plans going forward. The Tshwane SEZ is fully occupied. Phase 1 is complete, fully occupied. There's, I think, out of the 11 OEM manufacturers that are OEM suppliers to Ford, out of the 11, I think probably 10 or 9 are international companies. 2 are South African companies, and that excludes Ford. Ford is a multinational company, it's not a South African company. So we can come and do that presentation, and yes, our intention to increase international trade and international investment is very much part of what we do on a day-to-day basis. But we must now find a way of taking South African companies and taking their products, value-added products, and services outside of South Africa, because that is where we will see increased economic growth. Currently, we still export raw materials, we still import too much value-added goods which are completed, value-added outside of our borders. That is what we've got to address. How do we turn our own raw product into value-added goods and export value-added goods? We even know that our South African economy is built on the back of huge imports. There's very little that we export. We import, and that deficit is what we've got to address. The question about the Premier's pronouncement, I think we are working on the detail, so we don't currently have the budget for it. And with that said, we will have to follow a process to be able to get an allocation from Treasury to be able to fund that. If not through Treasury, through any other of the funding partners that exist. So for instance, GCRA and Department of Education, part of the work that they are doing is not funded by Treasury, it's funded outside of Treasury, one of the SETAs. So that is what we are responsible for doing. I think we'll work on the modalities, we'll come back to be able to explain where the funding is. But the intention to increase inspectors is there because we have a proliferation of illegal traders, we have a proliferation of permits that are now being used as permanent licenses. We have a proliferation of illegal establishments and even establishments that are contravening their license conditions. So we do need to increase it. And the intention to increase is there so that we address the socioeconomic issues that irresponsible consumption and question related to the underspending versus the spending versus performance. There's no way to get it perfect. So if 1,000 rand equaled one target, but it doesn't. There's no perfect science to it. We've tried, and it's something that I think all departments struggle with. How do you weight your targets? How do you weight your targets against your budget? So if you are spending 30% of your budget, how does it account for 30% of your targets? If you are spending 50% of your budget, how does it account for 50% of your targets? But the nature of our department is that majority of our funding goes to agencies as transfers. So, and it only accounts for one target. So if out of the budget of 1.4, 1.6 billion, and you transfer 70%, it doesn't account for 70% of the targets. It's counted as one. And it's something that, so in the first quarter, you've already transferred 25% of 70% of your budget, but you've only met one target. It does reflect as if you are spending exponentially but underperforming, but it's the nature of how targets are accounted for versus whether you can weight them and whether you can't. The other questions, Chair, I think will request the HOD or the DDG. I think, yes, a conversation does have to be had about economic planning Member Letwalo, and what does economic planning really mean? So we would forecast and project. How do you, and forecasting and projecting is based on data. The reality of the energy crisis is negatively impacting on the forecasting. So you would have forecasted, for instance, and then you have, and you base your forecasting on, for instance, the information that you get from ESCOM. When that reality changes from ESCOM, it affects your planning. It affects everything. But of course, we are in the province, we are trying to do what we can to be able to cushion, but also respond to the energy crisis. And so if you have those variables that are not within our control, they do have a direct impact. So the war on Ukraine has a direct impact on the cost of fuel, which has a direct impact on the cost of imports. And like I said, we are an import-heavy economy as opposed to an export-heavy economy. So when the price of fuel goes up the way it has, it impacts our forecasting. And I don't think 2 years ago when we were doing forecasting, or 3 years ago when we were doing the forecasting, anybody in this room or anywhere else could have told us that Ukraine and Russia would be at war today. So there are variables that are not in our control. How do we adjust for them? But I think what is important is how do we, as the biggest economy in South Africa, with the 0.6% growth, with all our challenges, we still account for 34% of the GDP. So we still account for just over 1/3 of the entire country's GDP. So our biggest responsibility is how does the department, through its policies, programs, partnerships, engagements, investment attraction, employment economic planning, how do we allow and make sure that our economy remains buoyant when there are external factors that nobody can forecast, but then become a reality and definitely impact directly on business and the economy, jobs, etc. Lastly, Chair, if we don't have oversight and we don't have any interaction and responsibility of a municipality that enters into an agreement with another country, with another municipality, twinning, etc., etc. Those are independent entities, they enter into those agreements. Of course, our interest would be that where there are twinning agreements, they do reach fruition. But I think to raise the fact that Joburg has a twinning agreement with USA and nothing has come of it, there's very little that the provincial government can do. Even our responsibility, our mandate in the economic space, in fact, I think what we must be able to say to City of Joburg is that you are negatively impacting our ability to attract investment because you've not been able to properly respond to energy, to water, to service delivery, to crime, to the fact that the roads look the way they look, etc., etc. That's what we must say to the City of Joburg, because they equally impact our twinning agreements that we have. But we will not be able to be in a position to comment or say anything about a twinning agreement that a municipality has with anybody outside of ourselves. Those are relationships and legal parameters that they get into outside of ourselves, which they have every right and purview to do. Ours is to make sure that we support them where we have to, but to date, they have not come to us to ask for any assistance as it relates to their twinning agreements. Thank you very much, Chair.
Let me see, before we let you go, can you respond if you can? Anyway, let me see. Do we have an entity called Invest Gauteng in the department? Where, if yes, when was it established? How much is their budget? Where do they report? If we can just get that indication, let me see.
Chair, it's Invest SA, it's not Invest Gauteng. It was established, if my memory serves me correctly, in the last term, or maybe slightly before. That's what it is, in essence what it is, it's a one-stop shop for there's national government there, there's us as the province, and some elements of municipality. So there's Home Affairs. It's a facilitation house, if I could call it that. So if you have an investor that wants to invest, you'll find DTIC there. They will help you with applying for whatever it is that you need, permits, this, that, the other. Home Affairs is there to be able to, for you to smoothly apply for visas, for the work permits, for whatever it is. DTIC and its entities are there. So the idea behind it was, let's put a facility together where national, provincial, municipal government can be, and it was in line with the reducing red tape program. Put all the DFIs, put everybody so that somebody walks in there, they are an investor from China, they want X information, they can find it there. They need this compliance, they can find it there, they can do applications, and. I think we share the running costs between the two spheres of government, and staff are seconded there, but it's called Invest SA. It is the exact address, I think the HOD can confirm the exact address, but it is in Sandton, just opposite IDC, or next to IDC, that's where it's housed. Thanks, Chair.
So MEC, you are starting again creating another, I don't know how to even call it. You know, I asked this question deliberately. I don't know whether MEC, do you take us as a committee as an integral part of your key stakeholder, or what? Because we read about these things on newspapers, or you see it on media, and there's a reason why I was asking. Because for every cent, maybe let's just remind you, MEC, for every cent that you spend as this department, it's your responsibility to inform us. It must not be a situation where we must just ask. This is why I made the reference to GGDA, that they are under-reporting when it comes to infrastructure, because we picked that up in your quarterly reports. Now, the reason why I was deliberate to ask about this Invest SA is because of whatever man, even if it can be R1 HOD, even if it can be R1 that you contribute towards the kit, is the Gauteng money, is the responsibility of you as the department and as us to be able to follow each and every. I have raised it, ka 200 million or are we not going to spend any money there? And I asked you, are you sure this is on record? Because we don't want, when tomorrow, in 10 years' time or in 15 years' time, when there's another committee of inquiry, they ask where were the members of the portfolio committee when money was just flying around, people in jail, spending as if it can't be. So MEC, for future reference, and I'm repeating, everything that happens in this department, every single cent, you must account to this portfolio committee so that we are able to have a sense of how the monies meant for the people of Gauteng are being spent. We are not saying, and I repeat, because I know the officials and the chairperson was criticizing Invest SA. Honorable members, I asked this question because if you recall, when we were in Brazil, we were interested on Invest Sao Paulo. We're even saying this can be a very good exercise for Gauteng provincial government. We are not saying there's anything wrong about Invest SA, but it's your duty and responsibility to inform us. We can't be asking. So, go etsagalang, you know, like CEO of GTA. Maybe you thought I meant it as a joke. You're busy, man. You are busy. You are everywhere in this province. You are sponsoring people every day. You are your friends on social media. You are everywhere, every weekend. But you don't even invite us. Let's a favor. You know? And there's a reason why we are asking this. Because whatever money, every single cent that you spend, it's our money. It's money for the people of Gauteng. It's not something that you can spend willy-nilly. Look at it, like I repeat it. So MEC, for future reference, we need to be briefed in detail as a portfolio committee about Invest SA, because we do believe it's a very good program that will be beneficial to Gauteng. But we are repeating, let us be briefed so that we are not shocked the same way we're shocked about the whole room. And I repeat, there's nothing wrong again with the whole room. But there are many things that are wrong in the manner in which we are paying people. Let's pay people equal. It can be that there's a board chairperson who earns a legislated amount of money. But there's someone there who is on technical advice, who can have 1.8 million per annum. It can be. So let's regulate everything that needs to happen. So that tomorrow we must never come here and start accusing you as if there are favors that have been done for certain individuals. Whether you hate me, you love me, I don't care. My responsibility is to serve the people of Gauteng.
Thanks. I think we'll bring the detail of Invest SA, and I think I think the questions I've responded to them at even the part of the technical questions. So we will bring. I think maybe some of the difficulties is that a lot that the department does has been established long before this term. So. Of course, it's a wrong assumption to make that everybody is aware of everything that the department does or is involved in, but we'll definitely bring it. Maybe just on a lighter note, Chair, we've been inviting the portfolio committee, but you never come. Thanks.
No, stakeholders, it's your opportunity. We'll just ignore that part. Or invite I look at the ribbon of that was on a lighter note as well. MEC, you can excuse us. Stakeholders, it's your opportunity to ask questions. I will start on my left. You just raise your Oscar Shapaka introduction, background, do question. Oh, no. So I will start this side. If there are any questions, you just raise your hand. I will give you a number. Ntate ko morago you are number 1. There at the back. Let's start. Papa, come right at the back, not you. Right at the back, number 1. Then Ntatemo, number 2. Is it Ntate or Mama? Ntate. Oh, Khoto. Oh, number 3, ne? Any other hand this side? 3 hands this side, ne? Number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This side? 9. 9 hands, ne? Bontate, le bomme. Maximum 3 minutes. Ne? Ubetseka any language, ne? Onyaka ubulela ka yona. Maximum 3 minutes. So Arthome number 1.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Terence Mngoti. I'm from Ward 47, Fosloras, also community leader, business person. So my question, Chair, thanks to everyone for the presentation. Welcome it. But Chair, my question is that can we get capacity trainings and developments? I'm from Fosloras, the Katuras area. Things are not happening there. I've heard all the speakers, they've spoke a mouthful, but can we get developments, trainings, programs? We want everything there at Fosloras. So please, can we be in touch as opposed to SMMEs, cooperatives, NPOs? Can we get whatever that was said? Because we can hear that things are happening. Especially, I've heard about the business opportunities that are happening, but we are not getting opportunities. So can you come to Fosloras, we get those opportunities so that we get running and stop being frustrated as business people. That's simple as that for me. Thank you.
Number 2, department ile clinic ile tla isa go health aga. Ile clinic HOD. Utla go ka clinic ile tla romela go health. You'll just respond to the ones that economic development. Number 2.
Sanbonani Kama, Lingwasa. I'm from Duduza. In some of my questions, I don't want to sound a bit xenophobic, but there's a thing I want to ask in this house, Uguti. How are business rules regulated? Because one of the biggest issues in our investments, it's pointless to fill a cup if in Embob. In townships, we know we have an economy, a tax shop, nani. But not just a tax shop, but the entire business sector. I'm just going to make an example out of one of the industries I'm in, which is construction. In construction, we know compliance is a must, just in case anything happens on site. But the way we are treated, us especially as South Africans, it's like we always go on sites to beg. One, we are killed with rates, we are killed with compliance. But any guy that comes and says, "Miyayaz," in our tax shops, we don't know what is required for your compliance. Because if I open a tax shop right now, I'm going to suffer. But there comes a guy, no visa, no nothing, uvuli tax shop, no regulation, and no one is going to question him. Growing up, we knew maktiwa uye shop, uye door. And our economy was surviving. Yes, not everyone wants to be employed. And we were surviving, but now we as South Africans are beggars in our own province, in our own country. Some of you, ama offices were as a Joburg. Some of you would even be afraid to walk up Bree Street. But you guys are legislating over all those things. We go to April. There's a lot of foreign nationals. We see that on Facebook, we see that on internet. Some of you have Facebook, have everything. But you are not worried about the economy that's taking a huge downfall. We have foreign nationals going about as they wish, while us South Africans, we are scared to even run our own businesses. And you open a business, you're going to get crushed. You meet a contractor, he wants a compliance, and he's going to crush you ngama rates. And mauti abuya utuzama umfuenu la iduze kwakho khalana ukuthi ndoda nami ngilambile. How are you going to employ that individual? Kulama rates lawo osabeke uyosebenzisa ubaba omdala kunawe. And then umbhadali 600. The whole month you're going to pay him 600. Just because there's a competition that says no miyayaz. No compliance is required. Nothing is required just because he says I'm cheap. What is our legislator saying about such things? Thank you.
Number Marwale Papatamazo. Kadlal. Number 3.
Molweni mqinisilali. Mina uqabakho. Nendlu yonke ndiyabulela. igama ngumthembu lo. Ndise Ward 47 Phosphorus. Ziyakhala. Tatomkhulu. Ingxaki isethenini apha. Divile ba-reportile siyabulela. Kodwa ezo reporter sizibonanga papa iphosphorus zenzeka. Number 2. Ndibuzela aba bancinci ngobabhizinisi. Bayithola kanjani access ezisekangikhavile utata umncedisi okapithelisi. Esalayo ile ukuthi aba bancinci bakhava kanjani access bayithola kanjani ukuthi bafandwe. And then bayenza kanjani ngoba bayafandwa abantu bayakhuphuka kodwa kwa aba bafandwa kanjani bayithola kanjani ifunding. Bakhulisa kanjani amabhizinisi wabo. Niziveza kanjani achile umncedisi. Size kule eyokuthi uzothola amatende agcwele kuye lonke leli lizwe. Kodwa xa usuka wena ungumthembu uthi uyofuna itenda utholi access. Xa ufuna uzothola amikhuku igcwele pha kwenziwa yini amabhafu nantontonto. Xa ndifuna mina ndiyobetha umngqusho wami phana ngeke ndikwazi ulunga. Ndiyabulela.
Good morning. Hopefully it's good morning. I've got a couple of questions. I just hope I'll fit them in 3 minutes. My first question is about the township allocated fund. What is the criteria that is needed to be able to access that fund? I'll give an example. I was one of the people who was unfortunate, who has had to open her own business to make sure she succeeds. So because of the unfortunate circumstances, I found myself being arrested for fraud. I've been in prison. So I'm out. I managed to get all the knowledge that I wanted. I've studied business management. Then I get outside, I open my own business. I run an MPO, I run an events management company, which recently I've been introduced to mining as well. But the problem is, I sit here this morning and find out there are funds allocated to us as township people, but you know nothing about them. How do you access them? What are the criteria? Because most of the time when I apply for funding, I don't get it because I have a criminal record. That's one. So I find myself having to source foreign investments. I have to use my connection because of my I'm an electrical engineer by profession, which I cannot exercise as that anymore. I have to use that commission that I found from Transnet to be able to access foreign investors into my business. So that is my question, how? What are the criteria? Can me apply for that funding or not? That's question number 1. Question number 2 is, how do you allocate jobs on township businesses? I was listening to one of the reports, they were talking about Soweto, that they employed people around Soweto for the jobs that they were doing. But with us, I'm also from Phosphorus. You see so many investments or events that are happening, and you find the person who's providing that is not even from Phosphorus. Maybe it's from Duduza or even Soweto, but they go to Soweto, they allocate them, but how do you do this allocation of jobs? Where are we supposed to apply? Because you find out that there is an event happening in Phosphorus, you didn't even know about it. You found out 2 days before the event, and you found out they've already allocated people to run that event. I'll make a simple example. We have group of women in business in Phosphorus. Some of us have applied for this project that's happening in Elisedi. There is some complex that's happening. We applied, but none of us were employed as women. It's only men that were employed under there. So how do you deal with those kinds of challenges? Who do we complain to? Who do we address those issues to? Please, I need you to at least give us, I don't know, something that we can go out here and have, because we need to make a change. And the third one is skill development. I heard you were talking about skill development. I have never found a funding for skill development. I'm developing because my MPO deals with gender-based, women in mental illness and all that. So I find myself having to give them skills out of my own pocket. I find myself having to do jobs, work jobs like acting and all that, getting that money in so that I can, right now, I am training them on sewing, on skill, clothing management. But from my own one machine. I'm training 5 people from one machine, the one that I'm renting, where I have to pay month end. But we have funds allocated to that. So I'm very confused there. How do you access those funds? Because we do not know anything about them. We've got skill development and hearing people that they are putting there, they're giving reports and all that. We have never seen none in Vosloorus. Okay, maybe my question will be saying, give us what are we supposed to do to be able to get skill development in Vosloorus? Tell us where we will go there. Where are we supposed to go? How are we supposed to apply? Who are we supposed to approach to get some development done in Vosloorus? Thank you.
Number 5.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Much appreciated for the opportunity. I am Reverend Franco Mkonto. I'm from Alder Park, Ward 88. The lady has already alluded to some of the questions in terms of how do we access some of these opportunities that are being presented to us. I just want to add to that question as well by saying the presentations that were given in terms of township retail programs and development, where do they get their stats from? I also work with NPOs, and what I know is that NPOs provide stats for TISH. And in the things that they've mentioned, they only mention 1 or 2 communities, and there are so many communities within Gauteng. So I do not know where they get their stats from. Maybe they should link with the NPOs to ask them for, or Department of Social Development, and ask them for the stats of TISH, because we provide those stats. And we do not see any of these programs within our communities happening. So I do not know where they get their stats from. Maybe the stats are created from behind the desk, we do not know. It's my assumption. Then also, in all the comments, or rather the answers to the questions that were posed, there was no overview given of the areas that were actually covered in terms of trainings that were provided. When I speak about an overview of that we need an overview that will tell us, in Ekurhuleni we have covered these particular townships. In city of Joburg we've covered these particular townships. We don't have that kind of overview. We just hear of training and development and stats and overperform and underperform. We do not know where that is actually leading to and what has been done in specific communities. We don't have any specifics. So we need those who are heads of those departments to grant us those specifics so that we can see if our communities feature, and if communities do not feature, then we can then directly contact that person to say that Alder Park is in need. We don't have anything happening. Please come to us. Then what we also have not seen, this one would directly speak for me to accountability. When we speak about accountability, accountability also presents with it someone that will give us dates and timeframes. Per example, in terms of the liquor license, and just as an example, but this has to cover every other sector as well. Per example, they speak about places that has been identified that do not qualify, do not have licenses. And the only thing that we hear is that we will get to them soon. That is not being accountable. Because accountability says that within the next 3 weeks, within 24 hours, within the next 3 months, That is what we need from these reports. The reports needs to speak, or rather needs to satisfy us in terms of, we know that when we leave here today, if we do not see anything happening within the next 2 weeks, then we can do a follow-up. We need to create that sense of accountability, which in the responses, personally, I do not see. And that is something that we would need to have. Thank you so much.
Hey, good day, everyone. I'd like to thank you, Chairperson Masheke, for this day. Well, I had much that I wrote down and noted. I'm Jennison Miller, I'm also from Ward 88, community leader and a patent holder. So I will speak for the entrepreneurs side. What I've picked up, so I just want to raise a point of advice. It is clear that from top to bottom of the departments that is responsible for economic development, that something is not in order. One of your members mentioned there that the remodeling, to consider remodeling of a plan. So it appears that everyone working on, as the committee, though the intentions are good, but there's not a feasible working plan. Hence the reason why we're receiving the reports. As I'm standing here, and I will speak out of reference of the speaker number 4 who just mentioned now. For instance, I've developed an energy system that works without even solar. But yesterday I read on the news that 45 billion rand has been invested to import stuff. When does the committee set up ideas committees? We are tired of, as South African entrepreneurs, to run spaza shops while external people come and open up companies. A solar panel can be invented in my yard. When do we invest capital in, when does the committee consider investing capital in mega companies? As I'm standing here, I have the potential, speaking under correction, I have the potential to empower thousands of people throughout South Africa. So it's not about me, it's just to prove a point to everyone. For instance, my first patent, I sold 4,000 units South Africa-wide, but it died. I didn't receive the necessary funding or even the information for that sake, where to go to. So I believe the whole system needs to be remodeled. I will second on that. I will go to my last point, just not to waste anyone else's time. Then it comes down to accountability for me. It appears that no one wants to take accountability, or I held accountable, hence the reason there is no results. The money appears to be there, but it's either not spent or it either gets lost by regular expenditure. So we're sitting with a situation where it appears that everyone does not know what to do. So I'd like to end down with this. For the committee to consider putting rules and things in place to keep me, Jennison Miller, accountable in my department, as you have just mentioned to the MEC, that she needs to account for funds. So I think then we will start moving in the right direction and see results in the next 5 or even 10 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Number 7.
No, thank you very much, Chair. My name is Tulane Mzameko. I am a ward committee member responsible for the sector of economic development and city planning from Ward 101 in Ekurhuleni in Katlehong 2. Chair, I was very critical of the report from where it started. It can't be that people come here and tell us about their underachieved targets in very critical success factors. It can't be that this department is saying to us they've not achieved enrollment targets. It can't be that this department comes here and says they've not achieved in terms of their BBBE targets. It can't be that this department comes here and tells that on the procurement of goods and services from township SMMEs, they have 0%. It can't be, Chair. It can't be that on the refurbishment of sponsorships, township sponsor shops, which, Chair, we are very critical in terms of those numbers there, because the question is where? You can't say that you had a target of 12,000 and so far we have done 5,000. The question is where? I am a township dweller if they can at least give us a breakdown in terms of this is the municipality, these are the wards, and these are the number of puzzle shops that we have worked with, perhaps we can say something that we know. But we can tell you, Chair, sitting here, that there's something wrong with those numbers. Where? We have not seen it, we have not experienced it, and we hope that we can get that breakdown in terms of those numbers, Chair. It can be also that this department comes here and tells us there's a fund to assist property owners in the township for people to fix their back rooms, and then people must come and rent. Then another question arises, where? Because we have not seen it, Chair. We have not seen any of our properties in the townships being developed anyway. So these programs, Chair, we are very critical of them because we have not seen them. And if you have been listening critically to some of the speakers here, it tells you that there is a problem in terms of the information link between the people on the ground and the department itself. We are not getting the information, Chair. Especially us who are in these institutions as a sector head for economic development and city planning. For me to come here and say, we've been hearing many of these programs happening, but I don't know any of them. That means I cannot give my constituency the right information in terms of how they should access many of these opportunities that this department is talking about. So we are proposing, Chair, that let the department fix in terms of coordination. We are here in a portfolio committee meeting where there's an accountability. We must be called when the department is implementing. We must be called and said, this is the GTA's programs, these are the programs, how they can be accessed. We must be called in terms of the GEP and other agencies that are within the department to say, these are the programs before implementation, so that we can take that information, take it to our constituencies, so that they can benefit from these programs. Because people are not, they are not aware. The same PR exercise that is invested in the NASISPANI program, because that one you can see, you can feel it, it's there. Let that same investment in terms of these other programs, which are very critical. The issue of SMME development is very critical, Chair. And it can't be that that information is only known to a few people. And we cannot even see visibly where are those people. Who benefits from these programs? Where? We are not seeing it, Chair. So we are making a proposal. The MEC also spoke of this thing of Invest SA. That coordination that is used there, one-stop shop, to ensure that there's a correct information flow for foreign investors. Yeah. Why can't it be done also for us here in the townships? So that at least we go to this one particular office, we know that the information is there, we can receive it and we can use it and develop our own communities. Thank you, Chair.
Anke be le sa phapata matsogo ne tla be ke itse gore go na le motho o le loileng. Number 8.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Okay, my name is Tsepo Muraba. I'm a ward committee member, Ward 44. I'm also a head of local economic development. Chair, I think my colleague has touched on most of the items that I wanted to articulate here. So now we have a program which was brought Plekeng ya rona ko Fosloras Chris Hani on the 4th by our MEC, which is the Uber drivers opportunities. So, Chair, one, we attended the event and then only to find out, okay, this event already had beneficiaries, but warona ba attended the event, by they are going to get opportunities. So now we ask ourselves, okay, where was this advertised? Where was the communication? Because now you bring these things to our townships. You spoke of economic township development, but Ariboni, we get these, I was listening to our MEC, Aribona, the department doesn't do much. They just, I'll share just now, assist and support. So my question would be, how are you assisting and how are you supporting us as the department? Issue your age. We have these opportunities. We know we have a high rate of unemployment in our country. And always, it's 18 to 35. Rebabeya kaiba leba 35 and above. So if we're going to bring 10,000 opportunities as the department, what are you saying about those that are above 35? Because if you can look at the states, a majority of Basa 17 are those that are above 35. Moving forward, We have, again, developments in our area or in our spaces. What I wanted to find out, what is the Department of Economic doing to monitor these developments? Also, their role in this development. We had not so long a mall that was auctioned in our area, in our space, in Phosphorus. And us as young people, and then we ask ourselves, how does the department assist or work with us in terms of owning or buying these malls? Because you find that the same malls, or people that are foreign, we are here, we are there, and we need your assistance. So as young people, how is the department, or how are you assisting us in securing these malls so that we can develop our communities?
I was about as you conclude.
Yes, no, I'm there. Yes, the issue of investment as young people, we would really appreciate if the department can come to the party. We spoke of township development, but we're not seeing that. So I don't know if maybe that can be addressed and then maybe actioned. We would really appreciate if the department can come to us as young people. There's an issue with the offices that we have. You go to the office at GEP, you find the relevant person is not there, or the office is closed. So every time we run or we try and get or find assistance, gray. So we would even ask now, Riekai or Rietzejuang. Thank you.
Thank you. The last speaker, number 9. Yeah. You must be on record. Ranyaka Mosori awa bulela.
Nyabonga mqinisla. Ujabulani wakamkhonza ubuya eTsakane eWard 83 kuruleni. Eyami question yokuqala la ngithanda ukwazi ukuthi i-succession plan yethu mhlambe ku LED isebenza kanjani noma iyasetshenziswa na, because of ngibuza mayelana nama cooperatives asungula the late Lungile Mtshali enza ama pilot project kuma presidents wakamasipala kwamalo kunjani ama properties kwamasipala bayevandalaziwa a revampwa kwafaka ama cooperatives. But after Lungile Mtshali ashona, i-program yakhe yachintshwa yaba i-project yokuchasha abantu abayenza ihlaba badobha udoti. Instead of ukuqhubeka nama cooperatives awasungula azange alandelelwe or amonitoriswe achushekiswe. Number 2, indaba yama rate taps in terms of ama cooperatives, because uma sibheka mhlambe kumazwe we-BRICS, ama cooperatives ngathi yiwo mhlambe andlondlobala kakhulu in terms of ilokujana economy. But ngapha kithi siyacindezelwa in terms of mhlambe andlondlobala or noma ngabe avula ama accounts acala ukwaba nenkinga in terms of lokujana ama cooperatives ukuthi abe nendlela yokusebenza. Number 3, issue yamazamazama. Galendlela le yenzakala ngakhona, it tells ukuthi akhona ama big guns are behind lento le, because of ngoyicabanga kwami i-Anglo-American is still benefiting ukuwama lokujana amazamazama, because of ngalendlela ingakhona ngiyacabanga ukuthi yibo amabhayari abathenga kubo, because of ukube mhlambe bekungasinjalo ngabo umthetho uthatha indawo yawo kuyabonakala ukuthi kwenzakalani, because dala ichubeka indaba yamazamazama kodwa there is nothing into eyenzakalayo. That it tells ukuthi ama big guns akhona yiwo mhlambe amabhayari. Enye into mhlambe ngoba uma ngabe bechasha abantu permanent ema-mine bebabhadala amalokujana ama benefits, manje basebenza nje direct, bathengisela bona direct, there are no benefits abazitholayo or bazibhadalayo. So kusho ukuthi lula, so basadla kahle, kodwa thina ngalendlela sibona ngakhona uma ngabe mhlambe beyinzwa abantu bala eMzansi engabe umthetho uthatha indawo yawo, kodwa abantu bangaphandle bafika bazincengezele ezweni lethu umthetho awenzi nawo. So sifuna ukwazi ukuthi i-law enforcement yethu isebenza makunjani, because of izwe lethu liyaphela soloko sikhona. Enye indaba yamalokhunjana yama foreigners, uma niqala nithi nina abantu bala eMzansi senza ama business, uthola indawo nje open space uyaqala uyasebenza, ama bylaws ayaqindezela na malokhunjana. Amaphoyisa kamasipala sewa la ayekususisa into zakho kodwa wathola amalokhujana ama-national foreigners bayenza iy'tena bayenza amabhizinisi bayenza yonke into bayachubeka bona so thina abantu bethu bekufanele ngabe mhlawumbe sithi sine-good story to tell ukuthi ugovernment wethu nako akwenzile ngama-cooperatives awasungula kodwa nokuthi siwathuthukise siyawabulala. Ngiyabonga.
HOD, 10 minutes for you to respond. Mike for.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. I think, Chair, most of the questions relating to the programs we're running are about information sharing and workshops. So what we're proposing is that our economic development facilitators will be deployed in the region to take the stakeholders here present through the various programs and the conditions for accessing the programs and the partners involved and the extent to which these programs are being implemented. Otherwise, anything else that we say here will be just justification, and that's not what the people are looking for. They want to know about the programs and how to access them. Thank you.
I think DDG now wants to say something, then you can conclude. DDG?
No, I think the one part that we should also commit to is that when we launch these programs, or even the process towards launching them, the department must take time to involve stakeholders so that you don't come at the end tail and you see a project launched and then you ask, how did it come here? So I think we'll take home this point that we made, that you must be part of the process of building. But not only that, I suppose we should also create a process of engagement, irrespective whether there's project or not. As we have a plan on what's going to happen in the next financial year, we must identify and agree that this is how government is going to do it, so that those who have interest must know that there's this amount for this project and we get involved into it. And that, I think that will help us to eliminate that we always meet later in the month of the implementation. And then there's a question about how did it come to pass when we are not aware. Thank you, Chair.
No, thanks, Chairperson. And let me also just thank the questions that have been raised and also the comments that have been made and the suggestions that have been made. I just want to take time to deal with the issues that have been raised. But before I start, is Masha here? He's not? All right, okay. Who from Bloemko, who from your team is here? Who is on it? All right, okay. Because I think that some of the issues that have been raised, we shouldn't leave here. We need to refer the comments or the questions that have been asked around support, information, etc., to somebody responsible for dealing with the program, so that we've got the names and there can be follow-ups made outside of this meeting. So Huitioni will ask you to deal with it, and I'll in my response, I'll indicate to the colleagues. So the first point that we need to make is that we accept that there is an information problem, all right? A lot of the things which were reported here is true. It is happening, but you don't know about it. And the reason why you don't know about it is because it indicates that there is an information gap, which is what we need, to address. The work around the Township Economic Development Program, in fact, there's work that we're doing around spaza shops, there's work that we're doing around backroom upgrading, there's work that we're doing around taxi ranks, there's work that we're doing around the last mile, and how we can assist people to start their own businesses in terms of last mile delivery, etc. That work is happening, okay? There's numerous launches that we've held. But the problem is that the information is not known. So we need to address that. So my suggestion would be for people who would want to know the exact programs that we are running in under the Township Economic Development Act, please speak to Huitsioni outside when we close, in this meeting. And Huitsioni will just take the details of the individuals, and then follow-ups will be made, outside of this meeting. Because the work is actually happening. All right. So what we want to do, Huitsioni, if you can just stand up, please, so that people can see you. Stand up so that people can see you. I you standing in for Marsha. Huitsioni from the department, he will be standing in for Marsha. Okay. So, sorry? No, I'm saying that in order for you to get more information, and so that
HOD, stakeholders, remember when we started the meeting, we said the rules of the legislature are applicable. You don't speak directly to the HOD, you speak through me. So can we respect the rules of the legislature and allow the HOD to respond?
all that I'm trying to provide is that there's comments that have been made and people want information. We're giving you a contact point so that we can actually follow up with you outside of this meeting in relation to the issues that have been raised. So there's a suggestion that I'm actually, putting forward. Then also we agree on the concerns that have been raised around around where is this work happening. Now, we do have, Reverend Mkonto, we do have our own databases of people that we've actually assisted. And we also have got names, of the places where the work has happened. What we need to do as a department, and we take the point, is that we need to multiply the work that has actually been done. So it reaches, because there's a message that you are telling us, so that it actually reaches the areas where we have not basically been doing work, the areas where we have not actually interacted. I can tell you that in Aldra Park, McDonald, who's actually in the engineering sector, has actually come up to us. We've had a meeting with him in the department, and then we've actually directed him to say that these are the potential funders, that you can actually approach. Now, I think that what we need to do is to ensure that all the other, people who actually need assistance with funding, training, what the business opportunities are, that you actually have a place, to go to. The colleague who spoke on the one-stop shop information center, we agree with you. I think it is something that we would need to look at so that that particular suggestion, is actually, implemented. So, Chairperson, just to, Chair of the session, just to conclude, the comments that have been made is that we're in agreement with the fact that we need to ensure that there's more information, people know what it is that we are doing, and it is something that we as a department are actually committed to. So I think that after this particular session, through Huitsione and even myself outside, we can, continue discussions further if it is that people have got questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, HOD and DDGs for the responses. Member Latswalo?
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me appreciate, I hope this mic is clear. I really want to appreciate all the comments, including the questions, because they at least bring us a bit closer to appreciating the frustration that our brothers and sisters are facing, in the different localities. And I think these platforms are quite crucial in that at least people are able to explore their agency. There's something about the agency which is quite important. which also relates with our own constitutional democracy, Chair, is that we are a democratic state. But if you look into the makeup of how the governance or the model of our state is structured, is such that it empowers the residents of our different provinces, and if you will, Gauteng, to be able to form part of the decision-making processes. I think our people really need to appreciate that fact, that much as you elect public representatives periodically, it doesn't mean that you must abdicate your responsibility from holding them accountable. But not only just ensuring accountability, but also partaking actively and having the desire to want to participate. Often at times what we come across is that when we reach out to stakeholders, many others see it as a superficial exercise. They don't prepare themselves. They don't approach it as a platform that could be empowering, but also developmental. And I would want to see it as such, So we really need to impress, on the residents of our province who are here, having participated meaningful, that it shouldn't end here. It shouldn't end here. We each have got a responsibility of wanting to interact with government daily, because this is your government. If you don't interact with it, decisions are likely to be made on your behalf, and then later on there would be lamentations on your part. So I really think, Chair, for me that is the starting point. Having an appreciation that the legitimation of this democratic project is such that if our people do not interact with government, we're as good as having a futile democrats. So there has got to be that appreciation. Chair, one of the recent reports reveals to us that the market value of the township economy stands at about 900 billion. 900 billion. And so if you will, the study goes on further to say that there's also a contribution of these spaza shops, township economy, which amounts to about 150. So for the overall 150,000, and I suspect there could be more. The spaza shops, there's as much an equal contributory amount, which stands at 150 billion. And so that is the importance of township economies. And that is why it was not by accident that in Gauteng at least, having appreciated and having listened to yourselves in the different platforms, I know other people might want to believe that government does not interact, but there are platforms where interactions, ensue. And so what would have been found out at the time was that there's a greater distress in our townships, as it relates to economic related issues. And the response of government would have been that we needed to come up with a systematic way of responding. And hence, not so long ago, the provincial government, and by provincial government I mean the whole, the executive, the legislature, resolved that we really need to have a piece of legislation. So we're sort of formalizing those interventions. And this is notwithstanding the fact that there would have been a modicum of other interventions over time, But to systemize it, a unique piece of legislation was introduced to respond to local economic challenges. And so I want to encourage the residents who are here to explore and to leverage that piece of legislation. Remember, any one legislation that Parliament comes up with, it's intended to benefit yourselves, you know, as the residents or as the citizens. So I really think we must also impress on the residents to spend a bit of time internalizing this piece of legislation, because you might assume that you are powerless. But there's a piece of legislation that arms you to interact with government, you know, and without government, you know, taking any corners whatsoever, because they are obligated as per that specific, you know, legislation. But Chair, I must also indicate that there are various platforms where there are an array of engagements on different topics, different subject matters, you know. Because society, there are those who may have interest in specified sectors of our society. You will find that government, you know, in different clusters of its operations can be able to respond to that. But even if you feel our government is not convening meetings, you can impress. I mean, the reason why you have got this legislature, and now Renalu misunderstand the role of this legislature. Ke parliament, yaga mara province ya role. Again, if you feel or if you determine or we are not finding joy, you know, in accessing any one institution of the state, here is this provincial parliament. You must harass them so long as it's within reasonable grounds of the scope of the work that we carry. I chair one of the committees, petitions committee, which is a ventilation platform where anybody, without even having to pay a single cent, where they feel, oh, but I'm distressed, you know, there is this pothole here, we don't have a clinic here, we want the school there. You simply write. I get it. And by so doing, you obligate us to organize and coordinate interactions between yourself and this provincial parliament, including government. I get it. What you loosely call government. I get it. Ronar government, executive. You know? So we are given powers on your behalf. And those powers, by the way, are given by you. The reason why the chair can engage the MEC the way he will have done, it's because you have given us those powers to do that. And then you sit back. At crucial moments, you are unaccounted for. Again, we want to see more of you. But as I see, Chair, we must also impress on the residents of our beloved province, where there's also strength in you organizing yourselves better. You will find that you will have a far greater reach on issues that you would want to raise. But if you self-represent, you know, if you go into a meeting and self-represent, well, you will be heard, but you will find that it might not go a long way, as opposed to when you are operating as a unit. Again, so we must impress on you. We organizing according to the different societal interests that you have, and then be able to say to government, these are the issues that we are raising. You know, elsewhere, that is how they organize themselves. You know, if you have regard to advance the societies or advance the nations, what you will find is that they are better organized, and hence whatever issues that they would want to bring to the fore are usually, you know, heard. So I really want to impress the chair. So if If it's a patent holders, there's better strength if the patent holders can organize themselves. If there's a specified idea, you will find strength if you can cross-check with others and say, how do we engage a government? And we too would be more than willing to sort of carry you, to be able to access all of these institutions. Chair, I also want to impress that we need to maximize the participation across the sphere in our respective communities, because often at times what we detect is that our society is multi-segmented and government is also multi-structured. Again, from where you are residing, what level, again, only the ward councillors, which must be engaged. They are your representatives. If you are not finding joy there, you can elevate. Again, you have got those that you will have elected in your municipal councils. You're the councillor. If you are still not finding joy at that level, you elevate. You say, well, they are members of the provincial legislatures. Again, if you are still not finding joy there, you elevate. They are members of parliament. And all of these people, they reside in your communities. We reside in your communities. Are it only elsewhere other than in the very same communities? So you must heckle us for the right reasons. So that even when you lament the situation, at least you will have explored the power that resides in the people that you will have conferred the very same power with. Again. So I you have not even sought to explore all of these people that you will have put in these seats, including myself. We want you to knock on our doors. We want you to knock on our doors. You know, the legislature, every single one of its meetings is open to the public. Every single one of them. I usually check. When there's an event which is more socially entertaining, and we say, no, people come to that event, people flock. DSTV. Again, DSTV delicious, people flock. When we say there's a festival, people flock. But when we say there's a meeting of the legislature, people do not come. And our meetings are open to the public. So, HOD, I hold a slightly different view on the assertion about the information gap. Because in the 21st century, information is just at our fingertips. Information is just at our fingertips. Nobody in this entire room can lay claim or they do not have a smartphone, with an exception of maybe one or two. And so just with the use of this gadget, you can access us. You can access all these programs, including all of these reports that have been presented here. We shouldn't be the only ones who are going or reading through these reports alone, because they are made public. We force that they be made public for your benefit and for your consumption, so that when you come into these meetings, you don't wait for these presentations to be presented anew, because already they are there in the public domain. We want you to be in attendance of our meetings, so that when we question those that are yielding or occupying certain positions of authority, at least you are also there to empower us with information around your own realities on the ground. Agrela utla batho ba go why go ra re ba tlo re itlang ka mora ntlwana e ya parliament e be lore you don't take interest. You see, you must take interest at every turn. And so, Chair, we're encouraging the residents to knock on our doors. You know, we would be more than happy. Gore nako nngwe re no kry-a fela gore ba re no go na le batho ba ba lemetseng in the foyer of the legislature. They want to engage on a specific program. Things go wrong because you are unaccounted for. Che, bongata ba batho ba ba leng ka mo as they spoke, ba buile ka tšhesego of wanting to involve themselves in businesses. And we fully support all of you who have stood up, who have raised their hands. Rona re batla thuso. How do we access funding? How do we access all of these opportunities? How do we get this opportunity? But what we don't want, Chair, we don't want accidental entrepreneurs. We want deliberate entrepreneurs. What is the difference? The difference is that a deliberate entrepreneur walks a mile towards their own development. Aduli or no, something will fall. Agerla utla banabesu. Aduli or something will fall. They walk a mile. And as they walk a mile, there's a point where they converge with those that are able to provide responses to their plight. Agerla utla baul. So, rekopa tswe gore a re tsamaisaneng tsela e mmogo. Or if you are saying nna ke na le kitso, ke na le boitsanape ya gore I can innovate, don't sit with it and lament. Again, batlisisa, involve yourself, be deliberate. So, Chair, I wanted to say that. Como fellow Chair, Kgolomente ya rona mo province ya rena ya Gauteng, deliberately, and because we have also pushed on your behalf, they resolved to let's elevate certain priorities. Let's elevate them as related to that piece of legislation. And so, if you will, the focus of the government of Gauteng says, we want to look into townships. We want to look into informal settlements. We also want to look into hostels. And that is the focus of a government as it stands. And so, as there are massive programs being rolled out, how do we meet with the opportunities that are being presented by government? And the only way in which you can do that is by involving yourselves. Again, Madam Chair, I really want to appreciate at the end. We've had all the inputs. We are going to follow up. I've recorded. I know every one of us has recorded. We would be raising all of these issues on your behalf, so that even in the next cycle of our interactions, we are able to give an account. But I also want to encourage that we must never be amiss of these platforms. Let's avail ourselves when called out, but it doesn't mean it ends here. Even outside of this meeting, you can still access us in the legislature. You can still access, all these representatives of the executive. We really want to appreciate all of your inputs. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Lutsalo, for the way forward. Honorable members, in terms of the item 6, NCOP bills, as per the norm, we have 2 bills before us. We will be dealing with the final mandate next week, which is the Performance Protection Amendment Bill, as well as the Copyright Amendment Bill. The meeting for the final negotiating mandate is next week. On provincial bills, there's none. On petitions, there's none. It therefore brings us to the end of our meeting. Thank you very much to the HOD, all DDGs, all CEOs, all CFOs, all senior officials from DED, as well as different agencies of the department. Thank you very much to our stakeholders, those that have made inputs and also those that did not make inputs. I've taken note that batho ba Fosloras le lona ke a bona la re le batho. So we have taken note. We want to also thank members of the portfolio committee that have made time to come, the staff of the committee as usual, Tabo, Vic, Dr. Azwi, and Mikateko, you, and our Takalani and the team that organized our stakeholders. You've outdone yourself as usual. Thank you so much. To our technical support staff, thanks so much. Ka bona le la re improve nyana la re betsa ka di cordless. La improve. Thank you so much. HOD and everyone in the meeting, lunch will be served downstairs. From 2 o'clock, we can go and have lunch and drive safely and enjoy your weekend. Thank you so much.
I think at the next portfolio committee meeting, she must get your economic development facilitators here, because it always happens. And I don't know why don't they invite these people? Because you see, what you want to do is you want to use this opportunity to instill hope. So people must be able to speak to people, and then they must be followed, because you won't be able to deal with all the issues in this meeting. Exactly. Exactly. An email address. Yeah. Yeah.
You see, our communication unit also, they must be involved. This is the staff, the stakeholder relations is a central part of